from Uganda, and can we learn across Africa so that then we are able to impact positively in our respective economies. In Kenya, what we did, Ibrahim, just to mention a few, we came up with a model of putting young people at the center of the Economic Recovery Initiative. And what we did was, first of all, and this was a game changer, which we got the support even from Our Excellency the President. We ran what we call the Food Services Virus Challenge, where we are saying this is a challenge for young people to partake in coming up with both techie and non-techie solutions for the economic recovery. And we saw young people coming up with very innovative ideas, very innovative solutions to spur our economic back to the position we want to see. And this is a challenge that was actually led, and it was overseen by our presidency, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. What do I say? Why am I emphasizing on this? I see and I appreciate that my fellow young people, my fellow youth, my fellow African students, we have a lot of energy, we have a lot of intelligence, we have a lot of determination, and we have a lot of creativity and innovation. What we need is a platform for us to explore this innovation and creativity in us. So as governments, as non-state actors, can we provide, can explore and can bring out their full potential, techie and non-techie solutions. And that's what we are doing as National Youth Council, making the young people at the center. When you look at fighting the COVID-19, what we did as National Youth Council or as the Kenyan government, we put young people were the ones who were actually running the mitigation mechanisms. And they came out through voluntarism, they came out through just volunteering their time. And that one also opened our eyes in terms of young people are ready and are willing to partake in the development agenda. What we need as young people is that extend those opportunities to us, because we saw young people volunteering, and even some of them were overwhelming, telling us, National Youth Council, we just want to give that helping hand and that contribution to us. So young people are ready to partake in the development agenda. Let's give them the opportunities. And as we do that, we realize that as young people, yes, we have the energy, we have the intelligence. We are ready to serve. Can we be mentored? So can we also have a robust mentoring mechanism in place? And then as we talk about mentoring, mentoring has a crossway, both mentoring upwards and also reverse mentoring. And that's something that I need to emphasize, that as African students and African young people, we need also to push for reverse mentoring, because we have the skills, we have the ideas. Why can't we not be listened to? And I think that is beyond the voice. That is actually now realizing the voice, and not only just having young people sit at the decision table, but having meaningful engagements in the decision table. And then as I just, and Karim, give me a signal when you see that I'm passing the 7 minutes, but I'm still within the 7 minutes. And then there is this discussion that has been going around about skills, about the technical skills that we need as young people. I think, yes, I appreciate, especially in Kenya, that the government has given us a platform for us to harness and for us to access the relevant technical skills that we need. What I want to emphasize on that, as we acquire these skills, let's also have mechanisms to incentivize our economies, so that then there is a direct link between the skills that we are acquiring and the absorption rate from the market, so that then these skills are very practical and very relevant. So yes, young people, let's go for these skills, but also let's champion opportunities for the young people, so that there is a direct link from the skills that we are acquiring to the relevant market. And this means that beyond the skills that we are acquiring, can we also provide a mechanism? Can we incentivize the economy so that we are all looking at both skills for the market, for the job market, and skills for creating manufacturing and productivity in the market? And this also, and I think borrowing from what you've done in Kenya, we have what you call affirmative funds, where young people with innovative skills can be linked with the right funding, so that then their skills can grow and be nurtured into businesses that can also not only be giving livelihood to the business owners, but also to the other young people. And that, what that means is that we're expanding the scope, we are expanding the opportunities for the young people. So can we also be deliberate in actually giving opportunities for the young people? And Ibrahim, I've heard people say that young people, given opportunity, they mess up. Allow us to make those mistakes as young people and allow us to be mentored because no one is perfect. And as we do that, can we be given those opportunities, can we make better those opportunities? So that then they say, given a chance, if you bring a young people at the table, then they add value. And that will only mean that we will create opportunities for other young people, and other young people will be entrusted with the relevant opportunities. And as I conclude, allow me to say this, that we've been pushing for the voice, but now we also want to push, we are pushing, even if it's a third or a quarter, that of any meaningful engagement, young people are there. Be it the public service, can we have at least a third of young people in the public service? Be it leadership, and I want to appreciate my president because recently he gave what we call assistant minister position to young people. So we believe that, and they are doing an amazing job, Ibrahim. So can we also make sure that it's deliberate, intentional, to have young people at the decision table, to have young people participating in economic spheres, and to have young people participating in the social spheres. Thank you so much, and may God bless you, Ibrahim.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Roy Sasaka Telewa. Mr. Roy is the President, National Youth Council, Kenya. And I mean, this is a very brilliant engagement you have provided for us today. And I picked a couple of very vital matters that you raised there. And I like how you came to end this whole submission on the point of people ought to be given the opportunity, even against the aim that young people are always going to mess up. I think the point has been made time and again that even for those leaders, the very old ones today, they had opportunities, they messed up, and today they are doing good. And to be very honest also, I mean, a lot of them are still not doing so great at all. So,
yes.
Yes, so the question of messing up cannot entirely be the barrier to prevent young men, to prevent women, to prevent other vulnerable minorities from getting access to also do some work for the continent. And again, the bit that Mr. Roy talks about, and if you are just joining us here on the YouTube All Africa Students Union, this is the 9th Student and Youth Summit, and of course also this is the second plenary as we are having it. You made a point also about how the COVID-19 pandemic has more or less exposed the inequality that existed on the continent, and that is good. Without saying that COVID-19 is a good thing, we can admit to its negative consequences and so also appreciate the exposition that it has done for us in respect to the problems that we have. And I'm happy that you also touch on what the government is doing in Kenya to help bring the young people to the fore and to center them in the recovery process as we are seeing. We're very grateful for that speech there, Mr. Roy Sasaka Telewa. I'm going to be moving to, Mr. Raymond Ruyoka to also join us pretty shortly with his own engagement on the issues. Mr. Raymond Ruyoka is the Youth Advocacy and Development Network in Uganda. He's with the group there, and he's also doing some amazing work. Let me also remind you that we have Mr. Tanaka Ndongera, also all the way from Zimbabwe. He is with the Zimbabwe Youth Champions for Agenda 2063, and they've also been doing quite a lot of work in furtherance of the Agenda 2063 to also help with the aspirations of the African Union as we collectively work towards getting successful here on the continent and all of that. I waited a moment to get Mr. Raymond to be back on so that we can get him to address us. But you can also encourage others to join us on our live feed on YouTube. That is All Africa Students Union. And as you can see, Mr. Raymond is here and ready. Like I mentioned again, Mr. Raymond is with the Youth Advocacy and Development Network in Uganda. Very happy to have you join us here. And the time is yours now. You have between 6 to 8 minutes to share with us anything that you have on this particular subject, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon to the members here. Good morning to those in the West. Once again, thank you for bringing me here. I'm called Raymond Rioka. I am the coordinator for Youth Advocacy Enrollment Network, a network of partners working with young people, not only in Uganda, but in the region. And we have, as I mentioned earlier on, we have teams in Ghana, and I'm happy to associate with you, the team there. And I know they are watching us. So, and thank you once again, Roy, for beginning a preamble, and definitely I concur with you on whatever has been shared with you from your side. I don't know if you can let me project a little of what I have.
Well, feel free to do so.
Okay.
Proceed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Once again, I'm Raymond Rioka. I coordinate Youth Advocacy Enrollment Network in Uganda, but also we have presence in 25 countries in Africa. And I'm happy that more than 500 young people, advocates, are watching. So I want to put my emphasis on in relation to the theme, but to my area of specialty and my profession, in relation to the theme, beyond giving a voice for young people, finding new pathways to engage young people productively. And in relation to COVID-19, I want to put my efforts into health sector, and specifically sexual reproductive health sector for young people, where is my profession. I want to talk about how it has been in Uganda, and of course, I hear it why Roy mentioned in Kenya, how the impact of COVID has affected young people there in relation to engagements. But I want to briefly about the youth sexual productive health status in Uganda and the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has affected the engagements of young people. I want to look at major gaps in the context of sexual productive health. We're talking about issues that were initially not integrated in the COVID-19 response, messaging information. At the beginning of the pandemic, SRHR hadn't been integrated within the national agenda. And this brought a lot of challenges. And you later on, I will tell you that it's one of the reasons why we have the highest teenage pregnancies because of the COVID-19 in Uganda, in addition to gender-based violence. Secondly, the channel to access essential services such as protectives and condoms, the exclusion of SRH for young people had an impact because of COVID-19, because government were looking at COVID-19 as the only way for getting other avenues that are impacting young people. And their sexual protective health and rights service information were neglected. Issues of resources, both funds and health work, were either not allocated, diverted, and the social services to the COVID response. So these are one of the areas that I would think were the gaps. In addition, young people are not considered as high-risk groups, hence their needs neglected. For us who are working in public health by profession and engagements, this was a missed opportunity. The COVID response is adult-led, and we are concerned that the young people are not put at the forefront on addressing COVID-19, yet the impact is more with the young people. Uganda has the national task force, but there are no young people on the task force. Where are the young people in this agenda? For addressing the concerns of young people, they must be put at the forefront. The focus mainly on COVID while neglecting socio-economic effects, and this is one of the loopholes that we have identified. Major effects of COVID-19 on young people on the SRH, I write a few effects. Intended pregnancies, we are measuring an increase from 30 to 50% in the new cases of teenage pregnancy in the health facilities. This is one of the cries you have in right because of COVID-19. Reduction virus suppression among young people living with HIV. The other day we are commemorating International World AIDS Day, and definitely this is one of the areas that we need to look at. That COVID-19 has made HIV a problem because government neglected HIV, and definitely the suppression those who are on drugs was an issue. Whereas in case of sexual violence against young people, that has been through defilement and incest has been one of the concerns because of COVID-19. In addition, rise in mental health challenges among the young people was an issue. Vulnerability of girl child has increased since some of the SRH needs sanitary pads are not prioritized by parents because of economic effects. Because we know because of COVID, there was a reduction in the funds and poverty increase, and parents couldn't afford to buy sanitary pads for the girls, their children, and definitely they are affected because of they go into menstrual periods and their hygiene is not well catered for. The low supply of the social SRH commodities because funds have been diverted. The COVID response increased the prices of the social SRH services mainly because of the supply chain have been disrupted. Think about what has been done at the country level. I told you from the concept, I'm looking at the health provider. And to me, my area is about strengthening the health concept, interventions for the young people. There have been provision of PPEs. The PPEs to peers like sanitizers, mask, gloves. Of course, government provided these PPEs, though they are not enough. They haven't reached a number of population, but government did this, and the non-state actors supported them by procuring and providing these PPEs to the young people in Uganda. Disseminating COVID-19 related safety information that has been done, and we thank government and non-state actors for this. And as young people, of course, the information is disseminated, but challenges are still there in relation to how it is disseminated. But information and about safety of COVID has been done. Participated peers continue doing one-on-one side sessions. They did a visit have been done, engaged teen mothers and young people on radio talk shows because of communication, because they can't strengthening communication on radio and TV, social media. All these have been done. The different partners through our networks have done innovations. So innovations have been one of the outcomes of COVID-19, that young people have been innovative enough to support their health system, support their fellow young people to be healthy, but also get away from COVID-19, becoming victims. The Quiz Up and the Sauti Plus, all these have been done by the partners that we work with, coordinated for inclusion, advocated for inclusion of young people on the COVID-19 task force. We have pushed government to have the COVID task force have young people. It has been a tall order for us to do that, but that one has been done at district level. But the national level is still weak, but the national level is done. Our partners are doing a lot of work in relation to going to the Minister of Health with toll-free lines, doing counseling, but also addressing GBV cases. What can be done different in relation to addressing the concerns of young people, in relation to building, making them productive, but also strengthening their resilience, COVID-19? Focus more on one-on-one approach. We believe there's a need for one-on-one approach. In the SOPs, standard operating procedures. We believe at this time, the lockdown had been there since February. All these months have been affected by the pandemic. We need now to have an impact by having one-on-one approach. Tomorrow group outreaches and dialogues are paramount, strong advocate for youth-led COVID response, but also push for integrated response approach. Both COVID and SRH priorities must for integration of SRH in the COVID meaningfully and for the young people in relation to the messages. Documenting and widely share the effects of COVID on young people's SRHR, but also we believe there's need to essential and life-saving sexual productive health services. We believe COVID has been here. The focus has been much on COVID, but other areas have been neglected. We need more resources, government to allocate. But this also goes to other governments, not only to Uganda. We are calling upon African heads of state to prioritize increased resources for essential and life-saving services for young people, and including sexual reproductive health. A focus has been put much on COVID-19, but forgetting the impact, lack of sexual reproductive health services, but limited resources. Budgets have been reallocated from these health services and put on COVID-19 directly. I mentioned about mental health. These are emanating because government have prioritized COVID-19. In Africa should increase resources, financial resources, domestic resources, budgets to essential services, and this for young people. We need youth-friendly services to be incorporated in the COVID response. But also, most importantly, because we know COVID-19, when the victims, you must have a strong immunity. A strong nutrition is paramount. We need to look at how to empower these young people through economic empowerment to create jobs for young people, in that they can get funds, they can make startups, do business, but also strengthen their immunity through nutrition. We believe strengthening this work will help the young people survive, but also having the young people as a benchmark of starting their own businesses, government supporting the innovations of young people to create jobs online, do businesses, but also promoting nutrition for them to be stronger, their immunity, and supporting them with SOPs that are very important for them. I'm just sharing the pictures of what you have done in the last engagements, engaging stakeholders in all ways. But all these are done to ensure that we strengthen collaborations. There's a need for strengthening collaborations in addressing the youth issues in the face of COVID-19, and this starts with us. COVID has told us that you can't do work alone. You can't operate in silos. We need a partnership by government, the youth councils. We are here, my colleague Roy from Kenya, the youth leaders, both political and technical, government agencies, non-state actors, development partners. They need to strengthen collaborations and partnerships to achieve our SDG 17 of partnerships, because this will help us to address COVID-19. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Raymond Ruyoka. Mr. Raymond Ruyoka is the coordinator for the Youth Advocacy and Development Network in Uganda. And of course, as he makes the point, this is not only in Uganda, the operations are across the region. We're very grateful to you, Mr. Raymond Ruyoka. Excited that you throw some focus on the health sector. I mean, the areas a number of issues are happening on the back of COVID-19. And in this area that you work, there are a lot of myths and superstitions, misunderstandings, and all of that. And the implications have been very devastating. So I am very happy that you talk about that. And just to quickly point out a couple of the very interesting bits that you shared with us in that particular presentation. You talk about sexual and reproductive health. And here in Africa, you know that is a big problem, one of the biggest challenges that we have, largely also because we have couched it in some myth. And so it is difficult for even parents, for teachers to talk about reproductive health and sexual rights, among many other things. And I'm happy that you reviewed this very interesting trend across the continent. So when you national task force in Uganda, and the fact that they have no young people in there, that is very telling of the problem that we have. It is pretty much like having a women empowerment council without a woman on the board. And that is the sort of problem that we see there. And then again, Mr. Raymond touched on the issues of mental health, menstrual challenges, and how those things have been exacerbated by the COVID-19. And that connection that you make between the economy and the economic capacity of the citizens here on the continent and the ability to provide some of these basic amenities was also very revealing, because what it ultimately tells us and leaders on the continent is that if we are able to address issues of economic inequality, then in the event of such tragic situations like crisis like COVID-19, we would even be able to empower the citizens and put them in a capacity where they are able to address some of the issues themselves, so that ultimately the government will not have the overriding burden of dealing with all of these problems by itself. And that's very great. We thank you so much, Mr. Raymond Ruyoka, for that presentation. We'll be getting to Mr. Tanaka to also share some very interesting stuff with us. Like I mentioned earlier, he is joining us from Zimbabwe, Mr. Tanaka Ndongera. He is 63, and when he joins us, I'm waiting for him to connect to the feed so that Mr. Ndongera would also give us his perspectives there from Zimbabwe. So far, in this second plenary, what we are discussing is beyond giving a voice to young people, finding new pathways to engage young people productively. And we've heard from Mr. Roy Sasaka Telewa. He's the president of National Youth Council, Kenya. And then also we've heard from Mr. Raymond Ruyoka, who is the coordinator, Youth Advocacy and Development Network, Uganda. And we'll be shortly getting Mr. Tanaka Ndongera, who is also from Zimbabwe, to share some thoughts with us. But wherever you are, you can also call other people to join the feed on YouTube. It is All Africa Student Union. Share the link with them, get them to be on board. Let's all share ideas. And in the comment section or the comment box there on the YouTube platform, you can also contribute with your thoughts on that particular bit there as our rapporteurs collate all of that to share a brief with the entire continent and around the world after this particular summit there. We're grateful to all of you. Other panelists who also will be sharing their own with us pretty shortly. We have Priska Manyala. She is the president of the Congolese Student Union. Priska is also available to speak to us today. Freddie Fernandez Onangwema is the president, National Youth Council, Gabon. Freddie would also be sharing thoughts with us. Freddie will speak in French, and my French is not so great, but we have interpreters available to make sure that we appreciate what is going on. Mr. Tanaka Ndongera is ready and available. Good morning once again, comrade, and thank you very much for joining us. If you can hear me quite clearly, we're ready for you. The continent is ready to listen to you. So you can take over between 6 to 8 minutes. Share with us your thoughts and contributions today on this very important theme. So welcome.
Once again, thanks so much to the speakers who spoke before me. That is Roy and Raymond. I am with the Zimbabwe Youth Champions for Agenda 2063 here in Zimbabwe, and we are pushing for the implementation and localization of the Agenda 2063, which hopes and are envisioned to see an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, a continent which is robust, which is there to stand ever. So firstly, in Zimbabwe, as Zimbabwe Youth Champions for Agenda 2063, we've been raising awareness and doing advocacy to make sure all young people in the country and across Africa get to know what is Agenda 2063, what we are talking about, what we intend to do as young people, because as young people, we're the drivers of this agenda. It is a youth agenda, and we are talking of 43 years from now. And as youth, we expect 43 years from now, which is 2063, we will be there to be accountable for what we would have done to make sure that this agenda is achieved. So basically, in an effort to make sure that we find new pathways to engage young people productively, I've just programmed my speech into 3 phases. So firstly, what I think should be done by the continent, or by even our heads of states and governments, our presidents, our leaders, is to tap energy from the young people, because you find within the young people, there's a lot of innovation, technology, a lot of ideas which can take or transform our continent and as well as our countries to a better level. So 10 years, like if you go back 10 years from 2010 up to date, we've come up with many policies which talk about youth participation and inclusion, but these policies have not been working, and still today we talk of greater inclusion of young people in public service because there is a gap between those in leadership and the young people are the majority, because as we are foreseeing 2063, we're talking of a scenario where we'll be having our population 3 billion Africans by 2063, and the young people are the greater population by then, and over 75% of our population in Africa are below the age of 35. Hence, the need to make sure we tap the energy within the young people. So what we should do first in Africa and Zimbabwe is to review our policy architecture, because our policies have been there for so long, but they are not being effective enough to make sure that young people are included in policy making, in decision making. If you are to see the number of cabinet ministers in Zimbabwe or anywhere in Africa, we see that there is a space or a gap for young people, and yet we are the majority. So there's need to review our policies going forward. For us as a country, as Zimbabwe of Vision 2030, where we'll be in upper middle economy by 2030. And for that to happen, there is need for young people to be included in the initiative, in the drive. Because in the young people, we constitute each and every space or sphere that we talk of agriculture, mining, tourism. A lot of young people are there. And if we leave young people, then we have a problem, because we are the majority. We should determine where we are going as a country or as a continent. And I'm happy the African Union Youth Envoy, through Ms. Aya Chebi and the African Union Commission with His Excellency Muhammad Musafaki, they launched the initiative called the African Plan of Action for Youth Empowerment, which is running from 2019 to 2023, which speaks to 4 E's, which we think as a continent, young people offered with those 4 E's will be able to make sure that we have greater inclusion of young people in public space, in policy making, and as well as decision making, because young people need 1, education, 2, employment, 3, engagement, and as well as entrepreneurship. And recently, when we started our lockdown here in Zimbabwe, end of March 2020, we realized that most of our young people were affected in terms of education because schools, universities, polytechnics were closed. Also, we realized that in our country, majority are employed informally, and they survive on hand to mouth. And when we were enforced with the lockdown, many young people went home, and they were now in a position where they had to survive on one meal per day, and in some instances, we would see others would not even have such a meal to feed on a single day. So through the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Recreation, there was an offer for the Youth Relief Fund, which was given to young people who had been affected in terms of their organizations or businesses. And this Youth Relief Fund went a long way in assisting young people to make sure that they can get something to feed for themselves, for their families, and to restructure and rebrand their businesses to be formal, because most of the business of young people were informal. And we saw through the initiative, through the Zimbabwe Youth Council, young people were now being assisted to register their business formally as a private business corporation, PBCs. And this went a long way in normalizing and pushing young people in the entrepreneurial journey, because we realized young people were now in a position to manufacture sanitizers, as well as other detergents which were there to be used to fight the pandemic COVID-19. So for that, we appreciate the government. And what we now need is for young people to be there to decide what we want as young people, because there are a lot of gaps or areas which have been left behind, because young people also need to be there when you talk of key positions in government, in position of influence. Start to groom young people who they will be advising, whom they will be mentoring, such that when a certain person in a position leaves that position, there should be young people who is willing to take over the position to carry forward with the work or with the duty when that older person will no longer be there. Also, the other thing which I think is key or crucial as we enable or engage young people productively in our continent and in Zimbabwe is the youth to have a critical mind, the youth critical citizenry. Because for so long we find we need to beg young people to go and vote, to cast a vote, and yet that vote is that which is going to determine a clinic, a school, in a constituency, in a community. So I think we should now move away from the patronage politics, where young people will need to be begged to go and vote, to go and cast our votes, as well as when we have maybe an event on Agenda 2063 or on Sustainable Development Goals. And these are the two critical agendas which were discussed in Victoria Falls recently in February, to align our continent and the world to where we want to go. And young people need to be begged by, maybe incentivized to come to an event of which that event is beneficial to young people. We need to get away with that culture. We need young people who are critical, who are custodians of the developmental issues, because Article 26A of the African Youth Charter speaks to young people taking ownership of their own development. It is not anyone from Europe, from America, or from Asia, or from China, from Russia, who is going to come to take charge or ownership of the development of Africa, because we know where we want to go as a continent. And for that, young people should be custodians of these developmental agendas and issues. And we should now implementing this. And our curriculum as Africa should change. Our education system, as we speak to SDG number 4, quality education, young people need to have the education which produces goods and services. We are now in the 4th industrial revolution. We are talking of the artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, the robotics. And as a continent, we know we've been behind for so the first industrial revolution. And for that reason, we should benefit from this 4th industrial revolution. And whatever we are doing as a continent, as a country, as a people, let's move forward. Let's embrace technology, embrace the industrialization which is taking place, because that is the new way of doing things. And that will see us going forward to Agenda 2063 in 43 years to come. Another thing, lastly, is our government's willingness to provide the space or the environment for young people to explore. We are calling upon African governments, our personal governments here in Zimbabwe and across the continent, to create an environment which is peaceful and friendly, such that as young people, we are there to show what we can do. We are given the environment which will enable us to do innovation, to do industrialization, to show what we can do that will make us go forward and ensure development in our continent. And another thing which we see as a positive move, and which we have embraced as Zimbabwe Youth Champions for Agenda 2063, is the recently launched the Africa Fact Book, which was launched by the Institute of African Knowledge. That book is a good book, and it entails what Africa is like from a Pan-African perspective. And for so many times or so long, our story as Africans has been written or told by the Europeans or other races. But now the Africa Fact Book gives us a chance to know what is Africa like, to know what happened back then. And today we are honored that our president, His Excellency President E.D. Mnangagwa, managed to do the groundbreaking ceremony for the Pan-African Museum, which is meant to be built here in Zimbabwe. which will be housing all what happened during the African liberation struggle in our continent, in Zimbabwe and Ghana. So it's a positive move, which we need to embrace as young people, because aspiration 5 of the Agenda 2063 speak to a strong, united Africa, which have a common heritage, ethics and values. And for that reason, Agenda 2063 is critical, and we should drive Agenda 2063 as young people. And I hear a lot of work which has been spoken by Raymond, which they are doing in terms of the healthy sector in Uganda, and as well as Roy in Kenya. That is a good work. I applaud such. And what we now need, we now need, many times we will be doing things which are similar or which are same, but we'll be moving in parallel, and yet we should collaborate and embrace, because there's an African proverb which is say, if you want to go past people as youth, we come up with what we can call the youthinism. You know that there's feminism, youthinism, where we have a concrete position which will define where we want to go. And as youth, we are united, guided by Ubuntu, guided by Pan-Africanism, because Ubuntu speaks to I am because we are. And divided, we fall, but united, we stand and we'll go far. A mission representing Zimbabwe Youth Champions for Agenda 2063. Let's unite, let's come together, let's embrace ourselves. There's a lot of energy and ideas within the young people, and those ideas are going to take our continent forward, so that Africa will be there to stand, because there are a billion reasons to believe in Africa. I thank you. It's over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tanaka Ndongera. Mr. Tanaka Ndongera is with Zimbabwe Youth Champions for Agenda 2063. And they were very grateful for that very insightful speech as well. And of course, the speeches that we have had so far, it's been amazing. We're getting some interruptions there, but that has become a norm because we all have virtually. And so thank you very much, Mr. Ndongera. And there was this bit about your speech that really struck me. At the very tail end there, when you talk about patronage politics on the continent, I think it's a very important subject that we need to, young people need to even have further discussions and deliberations on, and more critically, because you would notice that ultimately the democracy as we have it now has become a patron-client relationship. And so those who seek political office and power oftentimes would wait and then deliver the goods at very crucial moments when they know that people need it the most, just to exchange that for votes. Here in Ghana, we're going to the polls on Monday, the 7th of December. And as a lot of you may be aware, the politicking has become very intense. And a lot of the things that Mr. Ndongera mentioned in respect to the patronage that we see when it comes to elections and voting on the continent is happening here in Ghana. And among other things, Ghana is touted here on the continent and elsewhere as being a beacon of democracy, a beacon of good governance and all. But that good governance ought to translate into something more useful. And I think that you make a very interesting point there. Again, you touched on education, the system that we have here on the continent, and the need for the curriculum to reflect the aspirations and the nuances here on the African continent. That is also true. And this is a sentiment that is Shesa Kwesi Redu, for instance, a foremost philosopher here on the continent, speaks of this particular bit when he talks about decolonizing the African people, our curriculum, and many others. Other professors in the area of philosophy, especially, like Professor Afolanyan, also speaks on this particular subject. So quite clearly, the curriculum that we have here on the continent needs a lot of decolonization exercise done on it, so that we are all better able to situate our education within that framework that would push the uniqueness, the aspirations of the African people. And I'm very excited that you have talked about all of those things. Mr. Freddie from Gabon, he's supposed to also join us here. He's had some challenges with his connection. Freddie Fernandez Ona Nguema, he is the National Youth Council President for Gabon. I'm not so sure if he's here. He would be speaking French with us today, and if I would exercise very briefly my own French, I would welcome him and bienvenue, monsieur. Mon français est pauvre. That means that my French is very poor. And so I don't know if you can hear me, Monsieur Nguema. If you can hear me, we would connect with you and have your thoughts also here. And that will be the last bit that we would have, because unfortunately, we are unable to have Priska Manyala, who is the president of the Congolese Students Union, and of course, the Honorable Joe Mucheru, the Minister for ICT, Youth and Innovation in Kenya. He's unable to also join us. But already, we've had such very insightful conversations. Speakers, Mr. Raymond Ruyoka, Mr. Roy Seseka has also spoken to us, and Tanaka Ndongera has also been very, very instrumental in this conversation. A lot of you are sharing very interesting thoughts and contributions, especially on our YouTube feed. As we get ready for Mr. Freddie Nguema, let me just quickly look at some of the messages that we have received from some of you via the social media stream. And Hilda has been sharing some very interesting thoughts there on this particular bit. And she talks about the sort of great conversation that we are having and why it is important for African youth to continue to be part of this sort of conversation. It says a great thank you very much, Hilda, for that comment. And there's need to for increased engagement of young Africans in developing policies targeted. It looks like we're struggling to have Mr. Freddie Nguema join us, but given that we have even overrun the time that was initially allotted for this particular conversation, I guess we're just going to have to end it here. But a big appreciation to all of you, distinguished panelists who have made this a very insightful conversation today. Thank you very, very much to Mr. Roy Sesaka Telewa. He is the President, National Youth Council, Kenya. And then, of course, Mr. Raymond Ruyoka is the Coordinator, Youth Advocacy and Development Network at Uganda. Tanaka Ndongera also has been here with some very insightful Pan-African thoughts there shared on the issues. He is with the Zimbabwe Youth Champions for Agenda 2063. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're built to also have President of the Congolese Students Council. Unfortunately, he was unable to join us. Mr. Freddie Fernandez Ona Nguema join us for this conversation. But we're going, and Mr. Raymond Ruyoka, thank you very much once again for your time. And we're going to stay in touch and engage some more on such relevant issues on the continent. And then Mr. Seseka has also taken leave of us already. Thank you, Tanaka Ndongera, also for your time today. And of course, thank you to all of you for joining the stream and watching us here on the continent. A lot more conversations like this will be coming your way on the same feed. So don't go away. Get a lot more people to join us. You can also connect with us on our social media platforms, on Facebook, All Africa Students Union, and on Twitter, it's at AASU_72. And on Instagram, it's at AASU_1972. And from here are the headquarters of the All Africa Students Union here in Accra, Ghana. My name is Abdul Karim Ibrahim. I'm grateful to all of you for joining us for this conversation. We'll continue and have some more time right here at the All Africa Students Union. Have a great day, all of you.